Hello friends, welcome back to my channel Mukesh English, and this is Mukesh Soni, your favorite YouTuber. Friends, in this video we shall have the discussion of an important story titled Verger, and this story is written by the famous English story writer William Somerset Maugham, and this story is in the syllabus of first semester BCom English under Bangalore University BU, and this syllabus starts from 2024. So this is the SEP 2024 syllabus, the new syllabus. So now let's understand the theme of the story. Let's understand the main title of the story. What is the story about? This story is about a verger. Verger means to say the caretaker of the church. So who is the caretaker here? And this person's name is here Albert Edward Foreman. So Albert Edward Foreman, he's the caretaker of the church. He's called as a verger. And this caretaker, this verger, has been working in this church for 16 years. For 16 years. So what happens? A new vicar's decision changes his life. A new vicar, a new priest comes to the church, and he brings a lot of changes in the church, and his changes has brought so many changes in the life of this verger. Now let's try to understand the story. Let's try to simplify the story. So Albert Edward Foreman had been the verger, had been the caretaker of St. Peter's Church in Navily Square for 16 years. And he took a great pride in his role, and he used to always wear his verger's gown with dignity, and he used to care, he used to look after this gown, like ironing it and pressing it himself. Even he had a good stock of those gowns for a very long time. So he had looked after the old gowns also, even though they wore out. But he had never thrown them. He had never discarded those gowns. So such kind of loyalty, such kind of dignity he had shown towards his work. So instead he wrapped them in a brown paper, and he stored those gowns because they were the symbols of his office. So Albert, how he started his work as a verger. So Albert started his career as a page boy in the house of a merchant prince. Later he joined as a verger, as a caretaker at St. Peter's Navily Square. So what happened one day after christening means to say a kind of a naming ceremony in the church. So after christening, Albert was waiting to finish his task so that he could go home. But he noticed that a new vicar had come. And new vicar means to say, vicar means a priest of the Church of England. And this new vicar had come, and this new vicar was lingering. He was staying for a long time in the church, and he was in his cassock. Cassock means to say the full length garment. So he was in his attire, and Albert was wondering why this new vicar was not leaving. So the new vicar had been recently appointed, and he was very much different from the previous vicar, from the previous priest. And the previous priest was well liked by everybody. This new vicar, a red-faced person, very energetic in his 40s, and he was much more involved and very much demanding. So that is a characteristics of new vicar. And Albert, he did not like the change. Albert did not like the changes. But instead of that, in spite of this, Albert was very tolerant. He was assuming that the vicar would eventually adopt to the refined congregation of St. Peter's Church. So what happens later after the arrival of this new vicar? Uh, After the arrival of this new vicar, what happens? So Albert has been called to the vestry. Vestry means it's a room in the church where in which all the priests and the group of people who sing in the church, they put on the special clothes they wear for the church ceremonies, in which all the things are kept over there. So Albert was called by the vicar in this vestry, and where the vicar is about to discuss something. As they walked together, as they walked together, Albert complimented the vicar that how well he handled this christening process, this christening ceremony, and especially how the vicar calmed the crying baby. And the vicar also acknowledged this with pride, knowing that he had developed a talent for handling the infants. So this is how Albert was appreciating the way this new vicar had conducted this christening ceremony. So when they entered the vestry, when they entered the vestry, this room, Albert was surprised to see there were only two more persons were there. The two church wardens were already there in the vestry, and they nodded at him politely. But there was an air of discomfort in the room. Albert was not feeling comfortable in the presence of these two church wardens, and Albert he felt something is wrong here. He felt something was wrong, and he suspected that the vicar had pressured the church warden into addressing an issue which even they didn't fully support. So this is how a meeting is about to happen between the new vicar, and Albert. So what happened? The vicar first started to acknowledge Albert's year of faithful service. He praised, he appreciated Albert's work, his good character. But later, the new vicar revealed a shocking discovery. He said that Albert could not read and write. Albert could not read and write. Vicar explained that in the prestigious church like St. Peter's Church, it was not acceptable for the verger to be illiterate. So finally, the new vicar said that we cannot accept the verger to be an illiterate. So while Albert's previous vicar had never minded, the previous priest had never minded that had never any objection of Albert's illiteracy. So this new vicar, he felt that things had to change. These things had to change. So what happens later? Albert explained very calmly. Albert said that he had started working in service when he had started working as a verger in the church when he was 12 years old, and he never had the chance to learn to read and write. A cook once tried to teach him, but it did not come easily to him. He did not understand. He had never needed those skills in his life. He felt that reading took a lot of time for him, and he could not that could be spent doing more productive things, so he never concentrated on reading and writing. The vicar and the church wardens were still uncomfortable despite Albert's excellent work. They insisted that Albert had to learn to read and write. So finally, they said that no, you have to learn to read and write. And finally, what happens? Albert was given 3 months' time to do so, otherwise, he would lose his job. So finally, Albert got an ultimatum. He was told that, look, you have 3 months' time. Within 3 months, you should learn to read and write, otherwise, you are losing your job. Albert was upset, but he remained calm. He remained calm. He knew that he was good at his job, and he didn't believe the vicar was right for the church. After thinking it over, after thinking for a long time, he decided that at his age, it was too late to learn to read. He had lived well without it so far, and he didn't see the need to start now. So Albert politely refused to learn and offered to resign if the church found someone else to take his place. So finally, he refused, and when he refused, he was told to resign. He was told to resign. So finally, Albert has resigned from the position of the verger. Now, when Albert left the church for the last time, he was very much sad, he was deeply saddened. He had always imagined serving as the verger until his death. Now he faced an uncertain future. As he walked through the streets, he was lost in thoughts. He wandered into an unfamiliar part of the town. He realized that he had taken a wrong decision. He had taken a wrong turn, but still, it didn't bother. He didn't bother correcting himself. Still, it didn't bother correcting himself. And what happens? He thought that he wanted to smoke a cigarette when he was in the town. He was wandering when he was completely contemplating in the contemplative mood, and he wanted to smoke a cigarette. And he searched for a shop to buy a cigarette, but he could not find even single shop to buy cigarette. He stopped. He looked reflectively up and down. Then he decided to, why didn't, he decided to start a tobacco shop. Albert explained his plan to his wife that he's going to start a business where he would sell cigarette, tobacco. He thought, as a regular person, if he could not find a cigarette shop, surely, definitely the others also could not be able to find. So he decided to open a tobacco and sweets shop in that street. So within 24 hours, he took a shop in the street and started the business as a tobacconist and as a news agent. So it's been a month. He left the St. Peter's Church. He had set up his shop and he was running it successfully. Though his wife thought it was a step down from being the verger, but Albert saw it as a moving with the times. He thought, I'm moving with the time. He felt the church was not as important as it used to be, and now he focused on running his business. His shop did well, and soon he opened the one more shop. He opened a second shop. Realizing that he had a good business model, Albert expanded and opened more shops in different parts of London, targeting streets without tobacconists. So within 10 years, Albert became the owner of 10 shops, and all these 10 shops were doing good business. He was making a significant amount of money. Every week, he would visit his shops, he would collect the profits, and he would take the money to the bank and he would deposit the money to the bank. So one day, after paying a large amount, the bank manager asked to speak with him. He said that I want to talk to you. The manager was impressed with how much Albert had on deposit, over £30,000, and the manager suggested that why didn't he invest in some better returns. The manager suggested him to invest it for the better returns. Albert did not like taking risk with his money. The manager again told him that his money would be deposited in the various schemes and would set better rates of interest. The manager asked him to read and sign the bond. Albert replied that he could not read and write. The manager was stunned and asked with wonder what he would have become if he had been able to read and write. The manager asked him, "My God, if you would have been able to read and write, you would have become something else." Albert answered. Albert said, if he would have been able to read and write, he would have been only the verger of the St. Peter's Navily Square Church. So, friends, this is how the story ends, with a sense of irony. What's the irony is here? If Albert had learned to read and write, he might have never felt his job, he might have never left his job as a verger, and thus he would have not achieved the financial status, the financial success he had done. His practical skills and determination had led him to success even without formal education. So after going through the whole story, the Verger, we find these important themes of the story here: education versus practical intelligence, class and social expectations, tradition versus change, irony of success, persistence and resourcefulness, dignity and simplicity, fate and chance, and finally, human potential. So, friends, this is how I have tried to simplify the story Verger by William Somerset Maugham. And if you have liked this video, subscribe the channel, like the video, write in the comment box, share this video to your friends, to your classmates, and don't forget to subscribe the channel. We have a lot of videos are in the line. I'm going to do so many other videos also as far as your syllabus is concerned. If you have any questions, any queries, you can mail me at mukeshenglish@gmail.com. Thank you so much for watching this video. Stay connected with Mukesh English.